in my preparation for the show. For front and center seemed to be the Jackson Cantwell decision to visit Miami first and foremost.
Yeah, so, I like to shout out my own work because I do believe that I do good work, and I wrote the recruiting rules years ago, and one of those recruiting rules is follow the visits. And this is key for any and every player, but especially for five-star players, and even more especially for five-star players such as Jackson Cantwell, who are not from the local area. He's from Missouri. Okay, so he's making his way halfway across America to go visit Miami unofficially for the second time. Like, that's huge. What I've said and what I wrote there, and I've said it on here before, if you are going to have a realistic chance with a five-star prospect such as Jackson Cantwell, who presently is the number one player in the class of 2026, 6'8", 310 pounds, 15 pounds, left tackle, set it and forget it kind of guy, right? You have to not only get an unofficial, you probably need to get 2, maybe 3. Now, what's the difference? Remember, students and parents pay their way for unofficial visits. There is a large input or outlay of effort and time and finances to make unofficial visits happen, right? So the fact that he's taking another one from halfway across the country, that's a good thing. It's not the end of the road. It is not saying, oh, he's just going to all of a sudden decide, well, when I visit unofficially, I'm going to commit to Miami. He's going to do his due diligence and go visit these other teams and programs. He's going to go visit, Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Missouri, and Miami. He's going to go visit all of these other teams. And there's a list of his unofficials, that has been released. And then he's going to follow up with official visits. But for a player of that caliber, I would say minimum 3 visits are needed. And so now we have one previous, right? We're going to get this unofficial, hopefully get on that list for official visits. And then, hey, maybe even get another unofficial for a game or a camp or, something else. But you have to have that repeated connection pretty much. There's very few instances where you don't have to have those multiple visits. I do not believe that this is one. He's the number one player in America. He's trending and looks pretty much as a generational player at an integral position on one of the highest impact positions on the team and on the field. So yeah, he's going to go and look at multiple teams multiple times. It is a good thing that Miami is on that list. I think in general, I don't really think, as long as it wouldn't have been last for an unofficial, I think that might have been poor because he might have seen things that he wanted in the first 4 or 5 unofficials, where then he says, okay, I'm not even going to go and take the last 1 or 2. Getting on that list early ensures that he returns for that second unofficial visit, and then you can push to schedule the official visit. So it's a good thing in how it is. If it was slightly different, I think it could have been okay, unless it were last and got canceled. So yeah, all good things. And then, there are plenty of other official visits that are being scheduled into the, that was that end of May into June window as well, that are exciting times for Miami.
Okay, Cam, I am guessing you've put yourself through this mental exercise.
Okay.
To say, I am Al Golden, I am Mark Richt, I am Manny Diaz, I am Mario Cristobal. And the reason I go back a few coaches is to point out their different backgrounds, styles, so forth. Mario Cristobal, offensive line guy. I am the head coach at Miami during a certain period of time in which I may want to accentuate what's been accomplished or kind of suppress some things that maybe have yet to be accomplished or have not been accomplished for a period of time. I also know who I'm recruiting. I'm recruiting a 3-star wide receiver who is much better than anybody else thinks he is, or I'm recruiting the number 1 offensive tackle in America. They are from my backyard, or they're from Missouri, or whatever. But taking yourself through the mental process of this is where I am. These are my strengths and weaknesses, delivering the program message. And this is who I'm selling to. this is how I would approach it.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I definitely have, and that's honestly what precipitated me writing the recruiting rules. It's like, okay, like these are the structures that I will have in place. These are the, foundational beliefs that I have, and then build on top of that. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, if you remember like the NCAA like 12, 13, not the last game, even I think it may be the last, but like before the last one, before, it got revived this past year, like you could sell certain things, you could downplay, you could negative recruit or highlight your success in an area versus, your rivals that are recruiting a player. Yeah. I mean, it just, look, every player is different for one, and their situation is different. You also have to, continue. You got to go to the schools. You got to talk to the 7-on-7 coaches. You got to talk to the guidance counselor. You got to know, hey, unfortunately, this player's parents have both passed. He lives with the grandma, but if the grandma don't sign off, ain't nothing going to happen, right? So now if I'm insert, generic coach, and I'm just talking to, the player and the high school coach who's his, main male advisor that you might see, you're going to get some traction. But now if I'm the coach and I know that grandma is the decision maker she's into the in-home visit and be sure that he can convince grandma to sign off on it, while another coach may not be doing that. That's an advantage that you can have. So there's many, 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 many dimensions of it. That's why you've seen recruiting departments grow into having, directors of operations in terms of recruiting, or player personnel, they'll call them, your high school relations, so you can get those guys, in the building, working, from the heck or working remotely. Hey, today I'm gonna call the school, like half the schools in Dade County, and then, you have your content cycle to be able to keep connecting with them, and then have the coaching staff scaffold off of that as well. So there's a lot that goes into it, but yet, like, yes, I'm pretty obsessive about that, and that's why I wrote that 9-part series about like recruiting and building a roster. Absolutely, I have.